Hey y'all, Jamie here, proud 55-year-old trans woman from New Orleans. So, where last I left off, well, I had beaten my neighbor Tammy Why Not across the hallway into her apartment because she thought she was very drunk and Tammy was not quite right. And she thought that I had let snakes loose in her apartment and that she couldn't go to bed because the snakes were going to get her. Okay? Now, she pushed me until she was poking me, which is not a good thing to do. Listen, I had a very abusive childhood and just not smart. I don't react well. And I beat her with a can of hairspray. I beat her so hard with that can of hairspray back across the hallway into her apartment that I dented the can of hairspray. And y'all, that finally settled her the fuck down. And she went to bed. And the next day, she was apologetic. I apologized for beating her, but, she was apologetic for her part in it. And so, that was kind of that. But me and Mickey didn't last long in that apartment. In fact, we didn't last long in many places, but we really didn't last long in that apartment. And I had the opportunity to rent the apartment that my best friend Terry was living in when she got sick before she died. It's the apartment that's directly upstairs from Big Daddy's, the nightclub. And it's the three windows across the front of the building that are directly above the club. Now, I don't know why I wanted that apartment. I should not have wanted that apartment. It should have been very bad memories for me because my best friend was thrown down those stairs, and she died from it. And, but at that time, I was missing her really bad. She'd only been dead a couple of months, few months, maybe 2 or 3 months. And I missed her. I missed her so terribly that when the opportunity arose for me to rent that apartment, I grabbed it. Now, in order to live there, because it was owned by the Big Daddy's Corporation, which owned Papa Joe's Female Impersonators down the street, right? Sorry, hair in my mouth. They owned Papa Joe's Female Impersonators down the street, which was the trans strip club in New Orleans. Well, the one that was advertised trans, all of the strip clubs had trans girls working in them. So I went to work. I agreed to go to work at Papa Joe's. And Big Daddy's also owned another building where a club called The Orgy was, which later became the new Papa Joe's. Anyway, separate story. And above that was the Party Party. And above that was an apartment that older trans lady named Bobby Shane. Sorry. Bobby Shane lived upstairs on the third floor above the Party Party. Well, anyway, I would work at the Party Party, be drinking and mixing with customers and selling cocktails when I wasn't dancing at Papa Joe's, and I was able to rent this apartment for $75 a week, all utilities paid. Another big reason I wanted that apartment, whether it was Terry's or not, y'all. So he and I move in. We're living there not long. Mickey's off doing his thing. Mickey was, look, he was a male prostitute. I was a female prostitute. He was a male prostitute. What can I tell you? He was doing his thing, and one night I was at the roundup. And, I felt like Mickey had laid a certain foundation for our relationship by screwing one of my best friends, Puerto Rican Tracy, and by lying to me about some really major things like having an old lady and a baby that died in a car crash that wasn't true. He just kind of laid the foundation for me to not be so upfront with him either. And one night I'm at the roundup, and in walks a guy who is tan, tall, which Mickey's short. Like, he was the opposite of Mickey. He was tan, tall, black hair, ice blue eyes. He was hot. He caught my attention, and I caught his. And so we decided to go over to my place because Mickey wasn't going to be there. He wasn't paying. This was me cheating. The first time I cheated on Mickey. See, he's not the only bad guy in this situation. Listen, I am not going to paint myself out to be some kind of pristine angel that never did wrong. I've done a lot of wrong in my life, a whole lot, and telling it is part of all this. So, take it for what it is. I wasn't always a good person. And I brought this boy over to the wrestling ring, downstairs from the apartments. I didn't want to bring him upstairs to my apartment. And the wrestling was closed at the time, and nobody was really in there, and it was raining. And you could hear the rain beating on the plastic roof over the wrestling rink, and the moonlight kind of shining through the clearish plastic. You know, you could see light kind of filtering through. So it was dark and it was rainy and it was thundering and lightning. And here's the wrestling ring. I was drunk. No excuse, but I was drunk. And I said, you know what? Come on, boy. I dragged him into that wrestling ring. And baby, it was straight out of the hottest porno you've ever seen. Me and that boy threw down in that wrestling ring. We actually wrestled. We actually wrestled and tangled and grappled, and he pinned me down. And ooh, baby, it was hot. It was hot. Definitely one of the memories in my life that I consider a hot one. So after this, I'm feeling guilty. Like a couple of weeks later, I'm feeling really guilty. And I buy, a corset and thigh high stockings and garters and the whole bit. And I put all of this on to go to bed with Mickey one night because I'm feeling guilty about what I did and I wanted to kind of make it up to him, right? So we are having sex and I am trying to get there myself, if you know what I mean, to the big O. And I couldn't get there because I was pickled on hormones. We called it pickled on hormones when you were on hormones so heavily that you just things down there just wouldn't work, unless you really fought for it. And I was fighting for it. And Mickey looked at me and he asked me, "Would you like me to help with that?" And if y'all want to know what my reply was, y'all know the routine. Be here tomorrow and I will too. I love you all. I love you all for watching and I love you for the comments. Talk to you later. Bye bye.